In Japan, you are considered officially to be an adult when you turn 20 years old. This is the time when you can buy cigarettes and you can buy alcohol and you can vote. So all of those important markings of adulthood happen for this year when you're 20. It's a little strange in Japan, just to talk a little bit about being an adult, for example. You can still sometimes buy cigarettes from a vending machine in Japan. I know when I first moved here, 13 years ago, I was a little surprised to see this. There's vending machines just on the side of the street where you can buy cigarettes. Now, obviously, anyone can buy them. You don't have to provide ID or anything like that. And so that's a really common way for young kids to buy cigarettes. And when I first moved here, it was really lenient when it came to actually buying both cigarettes and alcohol. Kids were told by their dads to go fetch them some cigarettes or beer all the time. And so it was really not so uncommon to see a little kid going into a 7-Eleven and saying, "Hey, I need a pack of Marlboros for my dad." So that was kind of normal, which is strange for me being from the States where things are a little more strict. But lately things have gotten stricter here. They try to control who can buy what, and the number of vending machines that exist still has gotten a lot less. I've noticed they're harder to find. But there's also beer ones. You can just buy beer at a vending machine, which is totally weird. But like I said, those two are kind of diminishing as people do try to get a little better hold on stuff. But drinking in Japan is certainly not, considered nearly as much of a serious thing as we look at in the States necessarily, even though I shouldn't say everybody, but lots of kids in the States drink well before they're 21. But in Japan, it's kind of a normal part of life, and young kids even sometimes drink with their families, especially on holidays. They might have a beer. It's not really as strict maybe as the thinking is in some other countries. But it is something that people are trying to take care for. So that's why there's the rule of when you're 20, then you can buy stuff. So Adult Day, like I said, is a special day where people celebrate that they have turned 20. Now, the official day that this is celebrated changes depending on where you're from. Usually what happens is most kids, by the time you're 20, you're in college. So you come home for New Year's celebration, you go back to your hometown, and then the hometown that you grow up in has a special day where they celebrate Adult Day. And it's usually sometime after New Year's and around by the time of Adult Day. So they try to schedule it so that they can get it when kids are still home for the holidays and everybody can get together. There's usually a big meeting at the city hall, and all the kids that are going to turn 20 that year show up and listen to a really boring speech by somebody in the town, and then they leave and have a party and have a good time. But the key part to all this is getting dressed up. So all the girls wear beautiful kimonos, and because it is so cold, they also wear these really pretty elaborate kind of fur vests or jackets or stalls to cover everything up. So they all look super glamorous and put on way too much makeup and do crazy things to their hair. And the kimonos are very beautiful. It's a tradition in Japan that the kimonos, the long sleeves, are for people who are not married. So that's a common thing. You get, of course, a kimono that has really long sleeves. It's a very beautiful kind of thing to see if you get a chance to see everybody dressed up. And then the guys sometimes dress up, or sometimes they just wear a suit. That's a common thing to have them just see them wearing suits, usually more than anything else. But it's a really fun time to get to see everybody all dressed up and ready to celebrate becoming an adult. I don't think many people in Japan really care that they can vote. Adults, everybody across the board, this is the most uninterested country I've ever lived in or seen. They just don't care anything about politics. And it's a little sad and a little scary, but maybe something major will happen here and people will wake up and start to change things a little bit. But sadly, most people don't care. A lot of votes are connected to connections of friends and whose friend you're friends with, and if they happen to have a company that's friends with the politician, it's all connections and not really anything about policy or anything that's important. So being able to vote, maybe not such a big deal to people here. But the other parts of it, just being an adult, is pretty cool. So, but still, even though you're an adult here in Japan, a lot of kids still have their parents pay for everything when they're in college. They very rarely have to actually pay for anything themselves. Now, there are obviously some people in Japan where young kids do work and try to help put themselves through college, But the general rule of thumb is that parents pay for everything. They pay for your apartment, they pay for the TV in your apartment, they pay for your food. So it's kind of a nice, sort of comfy lifestyle for people here. It can be a little challenging though, because it's considered something that everybody should do. Even if you can't financially quite make it, you're sort of expected to. And so a lot of families have to get loans from the bank just to try to make ends meet while they get everything that Junior needs while he's in college. So it's kind of a unique thing to watch if you get a chance to be here and see people. I think young people in Japan have it really easy for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're married and they're like, oh, I don't know how to do anything.